Hello, welcome to a short lecture on sustainable business modeling, more or less the social environmental side of business modeling. I will not go into the business modeling canvas again, also not to this extended modified version of the sustainable business modeling canvas, which is slightly different, but the main point is it puts a sustainable focus on every of the 9 aspects, from sustainable partner, sustainable value creation, sustainable resources, responsible customers, revenue streams that have a sustainable impact. Also, the most important point is that you consider all of these aspects can have positive or negative impacts. And you should not have in mind that a business model can be 100% sustainable. It's impossible. There is no positive linearity with respect to sustainability. All human engagement also has negative externalities or negative effects on sustainability. You have to exploit something. Even if you exploit yourself, it has a negative sustainable impact. So you have to consider that's always a balance to be on a more sustainable side or on a less sustainable side. And that should also go into your thinking when you do sustainable business modeling. Being much more in all aspects on a sustainable side might affect your competitiveness, your let's say your position in a competitive environment as business. And if you're more on the sustainable side or non-sustainable side, it also will affect it. You have to consider, and that's the modeling often done when we look at why do enterprises not go more and stronger and faster into the direction of sustainability? Why do enterprises, corporates not change their business models faster and more strictly towards sustainability? You have to consider that we are all globally are in a kind of competition. The single company is in a competition, the country is competition, the economy, Europe, Northern America, Asia is in competition. We are always compare each other, observe each other, see at strategies, and we have a choice what we do. And we should keep in mind, as more you go sustainable in a broader aspect, as more as you go into circularity, have fair working conditions, produce maybe less products with longer life cycles, and it keeps you in a position being less competitive than your competitors who don't do that. So we are in a kind of dilemma situation. If nobody moves, we will keep, as dilemma situation actually suggests, that's the prisoner dilemma. I will come to that in a minute. And the equilibrium, Nash equilibrium, you might have seen the movie A Beautiful Mind. John Nash developed that in the United States, got a Nobel Prize, also Pareto, Italian mathematician. So in a game theoretical thing where you have a choice, reducing emissions or not reducing emissions, in a simple game with another competitor, your choice will always be not reducing emissions, which put both not on the best outcome you could have, but we put both on an equilibrium outcome you achieve. Because you're always better off if the other reduces emissions and you're not, in a competitive sense, you're better off. And that's the nature, the characteristics of dilemma as modeled in economics. That actually our behavior always depends on the behavior of others, the behavior of company depends on the behavior of others, and it is always the dominant strategy then when it comes to sustainability being non-sustainable, because sustainability still gives you a competitive advantage. And considering startups, it's even admired. I mean, finance rounds or being a unicorn is still something which is socially fully accepted and something you should achieve. In this way, it's difficult to have a purely sustainable business model because you might not find investors. You might not find customers for the prices you're offering your products. On the other hand side, in the long term, if you play it now once, okay, being non-sustainable might be the dominant strategy. But in the long term, in a repeated game over the next decades, it shouldn't be, because we all will lose competitive strengths, and we all will lose, let's say, the revenue and business models of companies when we go on and destroying nature and acting unsustainable. And it's not only nature. There are so many social sides which have to be considered, as all those military conflicts worldwide show us nowadays. Migration shows us nowadays. The economic situation of many countries show it nowadays. So we have many, many more problems to deal with than just environment. Are there way out of this dilemma? Yeah, of course there are way out with sustainable, socially, environmentally, designed business models, and that what entrepreneurs can do. I personally don't believe that an existing business model from corporates or smaller companies, smaller size companies that has been existent in a non-sustainable way for years or decades can easily be changed to a sustainable business model. It's impossible when your all business model, it's based on the exploitation of human or natural resources. But entrepreneurs have a chance to do that. You can start out and design a business model which is a balance between sustainability and non-sustainability, more on the sustainable side. Forget about that you are fully sustainable. What I said in the beginning, you can't be. Any engagement has negative externalities. You have to deal with that, but you have to minimize that. Another way is technological innovation, which is a way out in solving resource exploiting technologies nowadays. But it's a small niche. It's not that the overall solution of all. When we have to consider that the technological innovation of the last 200 years actually brought us in the situation we are in, that might be an aspect going out, but it cannot be the major aspect. That would be naive to think that innovations lead us out of the way. Business models lead us out of the way, but not single technological innovations. When we consider the Sustainable Development Goals as a framework used and applied nowadays, we see that economically driven sustainable business goals are only a few explicitly formulated, which does not mean that they are not important. They might not be important in developed countries. I think in this wealth that we are living, we cannot transport it worldwide. That would massively overuse our resources. We are overusing our resources nowadays so much that cannot be the solution. So economic aspects shouldn't play a major role. Profitability shouldn't play a major role in business models and sustainable business models developed in developed countries. Because we don't need massive economic growth. That might be different in other countries where surplus and profitability might be a good thing to create resources solving and addressing more social issues and environmental issues. So you cannot say that's important, that's not important, but what you see at the number, social issues are much broader and much more diverse and in number much higher than environmental issues, and even the environmental issues are number and diversity much higher than the economic issues, which does not say much about the importance, but the importance distributes more or less in northern countries where let's say that the importance of economic growth and economic outcomes of startups should be rated much lower than in developing countries. A second aspect which should not play a too big role when you do sustainable business modeling is concentrating, when you're considering sustainability, solely on the CO2 emission aspect. It's important. There's no discussion about it. We have to reduce CO2 emissions. However, we have many, many, many other aspects to be considered. And ways going into hydrogen or electric battery solutions might be fine, but we have to consider that we destroy other natures and we use other resources. So it is partly only a substitution effect and not a sustainability effect. So there are many, many aspects, and we should not leave out the social aspects of every doing. I think a sustainable transformation can only work when the social aspects are addressed, maybe even first, to have acceptance and the willingness of the human mankind to go into a sustainable transformation. Without that, this way will be blocked, I think. So sustainability should be treated also in business models much broader than just saying we reduce some CO2 and leaving out all other sustainable aspects. You will have a lecture about it, but we employ a measurement instrument, early stage sustainable return on investment at TU Berlin and at all universities in Berlin, also Humboldt University, Free University, under the roof of the new Entrepreneurship Center, Science and Startups. And that covers this aspect, that covers the whole breadth of aspects that have to be considered as circularity, fair work, but also psychological aspects, but also economic aspects, environmental aspects. With that, it is actually possible at the interface between education and really starting up an enterprise to see where there are gaps in your business model, where you can refine it and formulate hypotheses, as we do in lean entrepreneurship, to move forward in your business modeling. That graphic shows that. I mean, lean entrepreneurship works in iterations. It's a trial and error process. You create a prototype, you test this prototype. The customer can say something about it. You might change materials, you might change technologies, but also the revenue model or distribution channels. And that all can involve more and more aspects of sustainability in formulating hypotheses, in covering the widest possible range of sustainability in a working business model. And that's sustainable business modeling, nothing more. It will never be fully 100% sustainable, but you can reach the maximum in your business model when you go along this way, in going in iterations and actually questioning every aspect again and again. Can we not make it more sustainable in certain aspects? Finally, I mean, this measurement model will result in different kinds of sustainability, but measuring somehow, showing you the sustainable forecast of your business and growing, of course, growing in the beginning from a startup, growing business in the beginning. And that will cover the social aspects of sustainability, the environmental aspects. And the other aspects, I would say, which are very important, are the organizational aspects, purpose, psychological stability, and also profitability. That has not to reach out to a maximum, but still you have to create resources to keep your business running. One aspect which comes up for startups nowadays, it's authenticity, being authentic. Finding employees in the future, finding customers, finding partners, establishing yourself as name, as brand, as startup, will require you to be authentic. So you have to be authentic in that. You have to be transparent and reliable when you show that you are sustainable. So you should measure it, you should be open to it, you should show that. And for that, you need a real transparent business model that shows that you are sustainable. Also not hiding aspects where you might not be fully sustainable. The aspects have to be there. It's part of a business model of any human engagement that there are unsustainable parts and effects, externalities. Be transparent in it and be authentic.